Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to have you join us, and thanks for making the trek through the labyrinth over to find us in this space as well. For those who don't know me, my name is Lisa Lambert, and I'm the CEO of Quantum Industry Canada, which is Canada's national industry-led consortium. And I'm very excited to have a bunch of our members with us today to talk about a very timely topic, especially for deep tech, but looking at the journey from tech push over to market pull. And I'm really excited about this group actually because it's a pretty interesting representation. And I've been thinking about it a little bit like the sword and the shield of quantum. So we've got some companies who are representing on the quantum computing side, hardware and software, and then also looking at quantum secure communications and what's needed on that, and some different players in the ecosystem as well. So we each have 30 minutes, so I want to dive right in. I also know it's just after lunch, and I want to make sure everyone's still awake and engaged and popping in too, so we'll keep things snappy as we go in. And I'll dive in with my first question, and it is, from your experience, what's the most common misconception holding customers or adopters back, and how would you reframe it? And I'll just add into that too, if you just want to really quickly introduce yourself and what your organization does, that'd be great. And Matt, Matt, it's over to you.
Sure, I guess I'll start. So Matt Jaksic, I lead sales and partnerships for Evolution Q. We're a cybersecurity company focused on the quantum safe aspects, and we've been around for about 10 years, really going deep into the space. In terms of misconceptions, I think we hear a lot that it needs to be quantum or another topic. So I need to either embrace and get ready for quantum computers, or I need to protect myself against AI. And our message is always that you need to actually look at both of these things, understand what the threats and the risks are from quantum computers to your cryptography, your risk posture, et cetera. Don't turn a blind eye to it. Make sure you're informed. You don't necessarily have to take all the actions right now, but there are things that you can practically do today to get ready, and that's what's important to start with.
Thank you very much. I'm Greg Dick, CEO and co-founder of Open Quantum Design. We have an open source quantum computer. It's a trapped ion machine based in Waterloo in Canada. Biggest misconception. From the quantum computing space, what I see all the time, the sense that quantum is a monolith, that it's all one thing. And it really isn't. There's sensing and cryptography and networking and quantum computing, and getting a sense and sharing a sense that every one of those verticals is at a much different stage of development and industry in a different position is really important. So it isn't just quantum or nothing. It's more nuanced than that. And I think over to you.
Thank you. Speaking sword or shield, we are a shield. So yeah, good afternoon. My name is Heling. I'm the business development lead at the Quantum Bridge. We are a company that provides the quantum security solutions to the organizations today. So one of the biggest misconceptions, I think, as my colleagues mentioned here, is people think that quantum is something for the future. But quantum security, tell me about it when there's a fault-tolerant quantum computer here. But that is not the case, because if you're looking at the quantum security, it is actually a matter of cybersecurity. As long as you acknowledge that the risk factor to you is immense, you must admit there might be something you have to do right now. So, for example, the very immediate attacks, including the one called Harvest Now, decrypt later attack, is something that actually bring the existing infrastructures at risk now. So this is something that I think a lot of organizations, they didn't know before they actually talk about it. So I move to the next.
Thank you. Hey, I'm John Malcomb. I'm the Chief of Product at Multiverse Computing. We're a quantum and AI software company. We do all sorts of different use case applications, but our big flagship product, Compactify, we use quantum-inspired techniques that run on conventional hardware but come from quantum information science to compress large language models. So retaining the same accuracy, faster throughput, lower costs, lower power consumption. To the question, I pretty much wanted to parrot what you said, but from the sword perspective. Yeah, that misconception is that we're still waiting for quantum to come around. Let me know when it's there. It's only for those innovation arms of companies, but that's not the case. So my request for the quantum providers in the room, the panelists in the audience, check yourself before you say that statement, oh yeah, 5 or 10 years from now. I've been hearing that since the 2000s when I started studying physics, and every 5 or 10 years, yeah, it's 5 or 10 years away. And then for the quantum adopters in the room, recognize that quantum is here today that can add value. So sure, we haven't gotten to that fault tolerance, quantum supremacy, quantum advantage yet, but there are opportunities for niche applications to get those marginal value adds, and in certain cases that can be really impactful for businesses.
Thank you. A few words in French for my friends who speak French. Bonjour à tout le monde. I'm Bernard Duval from Quebec, Canada. I'm CEO of Numana, a not-for-profit organization. We're funded by the Government of Canada and the Government of Quebec. We built and we operate a private testbed in quantum communication, which is live today. So we invite everyone who want to test it. You're welcome. So the challenge, you stole my story. So the 5-10 years, of course, hear it every day. So what I do to counter it, I just take pictures of the multiple boxes we have in the labs. So equipment, next-gen equipment that are still in the box, and those who are in the racks who are actually working. And then they say, oh, so it's there already. So it's easier in my field, it's easier now than a few years ago when I had to deal with the same situation with AI because there was no boxes. So it was very difficult to explain that AI was here 5 years ago. But same challenge, same opposition, time flies, people are very busy, and that includes multinational, big players, manufacturers of technology, governments, small players. So that's reality, and we deal with it.
That's great. I want to pick up on some of the themes that you've touched on here and kind of build on this piece around misconceptions, because I think we've got a lot of customers or a lot of prospective customers that are stuck at awareness, or I'll even call it pseudo-awareness, because they're stuck in some of these misconceptions or pieces. And I think to move them forward in their quantum journey a little bit, going past that awareness over to a strategy and then to some concrete steps of engagement, whether that's a pilot or a project. I'm really curious what you think that concrete first step is that turns either concern about quantum risk or intrigue about quantum opportunity into an actual project of some sort, whether that's an engagement, that's a POC, that's a pilot, or something that's moving towards they're actually playing with this stuff. Anyone who wants to lead on?
I have the mic, so I'll start.
Yeah.
So just trust I would say start by trusting maybe an academic partner. They have the will, right? They have the funding as well. They have access to labs. You don't need to risk time from your employees, from your equipment, your cash. You can just collaborate with the academic. That's an easy first step, and then you'll get to know a bit more about what you're looking for, because many times you just don't know what you're looking for, and they will help, and it works well, actually.
I'll take this too if I just go down the line. But so at Multiverse, we're really sort of a dual citizen company. So we established in Toronto in Canada and then also up in the north of Spain. And some of the things that we found, like we've just had a lot more growth and adoption out of our Spanish company and within Europe. Things that we've experienced, and I don't think it's unique to quantum, but we found, especially within Canada, there's just a lot of apprehension to it. There's sort of, okay, I have this awareness of quantum, I'm told that it's going to be coming, but maybe I'll just see how it's done across the street before I pick it up. Whereas what we've been finding in Spain is that there's just a lot of support and drive from governments. There's consortiums of companies that are coming together to try to innovate and drive this. So if we could also have, key decision makers in government and large industry organizations to help propel and motivate this and make it a safer avenue to explore.
From a Quantum Bridge perspective, I think having awareness is actually a very critical first step. And what's next? I think the next step is to actually ask the right questions. For example, do you know what information in your organization is protected by what and how? And then it's if some pieces of information got actually broken into, what is the risk to your organization? Is it a risk to your, on your public trust? Is it a risk about the data integrity itself? Or is that you don't care. I mean, like everybody will probably arrive at the different answers for your own organization. But I think at least starting with assessing your own inventory, assessing the risk, what if it is broken, what impact will happen to your organization, what impact will be to your shareholder value, and then it's probably a very good start to kick off some initial projects.
I'm going to echo Bernard and John's comments pretty directly. For us, our experience, the key to our success in the open source framework is we're able to get to that specific problem wherever it is in the quantum computing stack pretty quickly, and it's defining that problem where that's the hard work, and then the success follows from that. So I think it's key to not try to do too much at once. It's find that specific challenge and go right at it.
Yeah, maybe the same comments from the cybersecurity side, but CISOs and CTOs have enough things that keep them up at night. They know a little bit about quantum. One of the execs that we were talking to earlier this week basically said, I feel like the more I learn about it, the further into the valley of despair I get. And there's a lot of work to get onto the other side. So I almost want to not start that journey. And so what we see is the very practical first step is to get started with a use case or looking at a specific system, a business process, and do a deep dive on it and get comfortable with what the risks are and what they aren't. Make sure that you're grounding it in something that is very practical and relevant to your business and not just on the theoretical side of it. And that gets a lot more attention and a lot more traction to do it quickly. And then you can build on the use cases from there once you've got some of those initial learnings.
Thanks for that. And Belnaud, I want to pick on you a little bit in this because you play an interesting role in the landscape and ecosystem with operating Kirk, the testbed. And I'm really curious, what role do testbeds like Kirk play in creating confidence and market readiness? And Matt, you might have some comments on this as well because I know Evolution Q is a partner with Kirk.
Well, that it plays on both sides. So the manufacturers of solutions and equipment, as well as the clients and the government. So everyone can win from it because they can de-risk any ideas they have or initiatives. They can do it on our test bed easily. The risk is, the resources in terms of money, of equipment, in terms of time as well. But also they can gain credibility by working with us. They have a direct connection with the authorities. So if you're new in the business or you're from another country and you want to sell to procurement, to a government or a client, nobody knows you, then you can start an initiative on a test bed, play with the potential client, roll projects and so on, and gain that trustworthy that they're looking for. So the client is looking for it. So that would be one.
Do you want to add to that, Matt?
Yeah, a lot of the companies that we work with are typically large enterprises or government organizations, and so they deal with a ton of red tape. The cost is one aspect, buying some of the new technologies, getting through a vetting process, that's one thing. But we were working with one bank where they were looking to install something in a segregated cloud instance that was cut off from everything else. And it took them 3 months to get their own internal approvals just to run a 1-month POC. The amount of security checks that went through, the procurement document itself was 50 pages long, all to be able to do what was a relatively simple test plan. So I know we've been excited about Kirk and bringing clients over to there to say, we can help you build a test plan, you have access to the technology, it's in a sandbox environment, but you can still play around with it and run a lot of the test cases that you're interested in, but without all that bureaucracy around it because it's not touching your infrastructure, your IT groups, et cetera. So there's a lot of opportunities to actually go a little bit faster by using them as well.
Thanks for that. And Greg, I want to go over to a different kind of tool in the toolkit, and it's one that I think I'm really excited about to see in quantum because it's still emerging in that space and relatively new, but we've seen huge payoff for this in other technologies, and that's open source as a platform for this. And I'm really curious, just what role do you see as open tools or open platforms like yours playing in the ecosystem? I think, John, you might have some thoughts on this as well. I don't know if some of your experience if others want to share as well.
I think I'm aptly seated here between the cybersecurity champions. On the open source front, historically, open source has been able to be a key player in an industry's progression. And one of the key roles it plays is that transparency, deep, radical transparency. So it allows the customers to see very, very sincerely the state of the technology. Now I'm focusing in on quantum computing. It has a longer lead time. But they're able to really get a sense, transparently benchmark where the tech is at. It gives an honest insight into where they want to play within that technological stack. And I also think it really has shown to be a really effective player or tool to help workforce development. So it has historically done all of those things. We really see it starting to do that with our company and it's not-for-profit as well. Specifically, so we have some key industry players, and what they're finding is that they're getting 5x the return on their investment because they can come, they bring a problem, it's solved with the community, many hands makes light work, and that some of those hard engineering science problems that are yet to be conquered can be tackled collectively. And maybe the last thought I'll share is, so Francesco Bova and Roger Melko recently had a paper published in Nature tied to open source. Francesco Bova, he is an economics professor at the University of Toronto, the Rotman School of Economics. He's the CDL Quantum Stream Lead, and he's on Open Quantum Design's Leadership Council. But essentially what this paper looked at is it looked at how open source can play a real role in accelerating innovation by taking the decision space and narrowing it pretty quickly, because it's a collaborative, narrow process. So the number of combinations and optimizations, if you remember back to school, those courses that killed us, it helps simplify that. So the paper's in Nature, and then there's a longer version on the archive. But all of those pieces, I think open source has a role to play, certainly.
I'll say a couple words, but I'll have to spin the question a little bit because our products aren't open source.
No, I'm just more looking at like where you played with open source tools and some things through your journey.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, we're making use of all sorts of open source libraries. It's super handy, just in the same way that any software development. But I do want to pick up sort of on what you were saying. Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you. Where you're coming from, that open source offers that transparency, which is really useful. I think a related theme could be accessibility. And I'm not just talking about availability, but I mean, can I understand this tool? We're right up at the top of the application layer, so our end users aren't quantum developers themselves. So we have an optimization library, a machine learning library, and it's targeting optimization experts, machine learning developers. We have rules that in our user documentation, we don't use terms like qubit, Hamiltonian, but speak the language of those end users.
That's great. It's interesting to look at. Because you have the mic, John, sure. I'm going to pick on you now with this as well. And AI and quantum has already come up. Of course, it's going to. But you're doing some really interesting work in this space. I want to give you the chance to dive into this a little bit more, because hybridization is often the bridge with these kind of technologies. And we look at bringing these deep technologies into playing with the real world as well. So I'm curious, how do you see AI and classical and quantum integration changing how customers think about adoption?
So I think just recognize that these are all low-level technological advances that can be married together and support each other. Just like how CPUs and GPUs can both have a role to play in some software application, well, let's also include QPUs in there. And on the point about hybridization, hybridization is always going to be the case, even if we're looking in a sci-fi 200-year future where everything's so much is going on in quantum computers. But just to interface with them, you're not going to turn yourself into some quantum object to be able to interact with it. So at some point, there's going to need to be that from QPU to something more familiar. But even with today, of course, it's the technology does have significant limitations, but significant advantages in those niche areas. And those niche areas might not be entire applications, but one step in the routine that could really get an advantage from that. So that's like this machine learning toolkit that I mentioned, that we have a classification routine that one of the limitations with quantum machine learning is that you can't really put all this big heavy training data in through the machines. So that's not the step where quantum is included in there. Instead, there's a key step that involves some optimization of weak learners in an ensemble to what's the optimal combination of these weak learners that are trained on classical computers.
That's great. I appreciate that. You've said let's speak to the future, so I want to go to the future a little bit. And this doesn't have to be 200 years into the future. We can go near term with this, but I'm really excited for kind of this inflection point that quantum is at right now, because adoption isn't the finish line. It often sparks the next wave of innovation that comes through this. And we think about, from the internet, we built off Amazon, from this Netflix and those other kind of pieces. So I'm curious, from where each of you sit, how does getting quantum or quantum safe into customers' hands accelerate further breakthroughs or further developments? And what's just one thing, you can only pick one, that you're most excited about on the horizon?
I've been talking.
Go this way. Anyone who wants to jump in first. It's a big question. But.
So our founders are deep experts in the quantum space as well as cybersecurity. If you've ever heard Michele talk, he will talk about a lot of the debt and complacency that we've had around our cryptographic algorithms and approaches in the past. So quantum is a great means to go and revisit some of those practices, build up the level of resiliency that we have, diversify some of the techniques that we use to keep data safe, and to architect for that in the future. And so this is one of those areas where we're seeing a lot of interest in varying approaches. They are slow to, adoption's never the fastest thing in the cybersecurity realm, but you're seeing a lot of interest of saying, okay, if we don't look just one step change ahead, but we look 3 or 4 or 5, how do we make sure we're architecting for some of those other technologies? In terms of areas of interest, I never thought I would be, bridging on these areas, but we're starting to talk to organizations that are in the space realm. So working with satellites and some of the communications up there. So for me, being able to bridge into some of those leading areas is super interesting.
Okay, I think a key piece that's going to advance all of this is access. So coming from the open source perspective, of course, but the access piece. So you've probably all heard the Boston Consulting number that, in the first 10% of adopters with quantum will reap 90% of the value proposition, and there's $2 trillion on the table over the next 10 years. Quantum Insider dug a little deeper and found that the history shows that 6% of that 90% of wealth goes to the folks actually developing the tech at the moment. The rest, 84% of that wealth, goes to those killer apps, those new ideas. So for me, the exciting thing is, and when I was downstairs yesterday listening to some of those students pitching, that's where the real value generation will come from, and the real amazing next steps that I'm too old to even imagine. So I'm looking forward to that.
Quantum Bridge's mission is to create an unbreakable cybersecurity for the quantum era. So I guess that will be something we'll be very excited about. And I do believe that quantum security is actually the second wave of this technology evolution. People start to build the quantum technology in the beginning, and as the technology gradually become more mature, people are getting more excited about it. And it seems like the technology is moving gradually more from the lab to the industry and commercialization, and people then start getting more worried about and concerned about security side. Shall we actually protect ourselves better? So I actually think the next step for us, like what we'll be excited, is really to have the solutions because we are the solution vendor. So we want to see that the solutions for future-proofing your organization is more widely adopted, more widely realized across the world. And also what I would like to see is that the different technologies that are built for future-proofing your future will be more standardized, certified, validated by customers, by governments. That will take a whole community efforts to make it happen.
So I'll use this as an opportunity just for a selfish plug of what we're doing at Multiverse.
Plug away.
Thank you. What I'm really looking forward to is AI on the edge. So this thanks to quantum computing allowing this to happen. So this compression product that I'm talking about, where we're using it right now to just make these large language models much more efficient, to lower compute costs on standard GPU deployments of these, but it also just unlocks the opportunity to be able to put these models onto edge devices, so right locally on laptops, on mobile phones, but even more extreme, and deep sea geological survey robots and satellites in the sky. And thanks to these quantum-inspired techniques that we're doing, this is accessible. We're working into this, and then to help make that happen, I think that we're quite good at this, especially with the help of QIC, of like being a very collaborative ecosystem within quantum. Like, I think we're all propping each other up and excited to see everyone succeed, and that's really helping things along.
I found a thought. Thanks, Matt. So it's not that exciting, what I'll share. When we started 3 years ago, we were driven by telecom needs, right? Which was great. That's the background. Then cybersecurity came in, because that's the most, I would say, the most applications we found back then. But I mean, sustainability was included in the thought. Then came defense, so big shuffling with geopolitics. There's a lot of change that came in. Then energy came in, and then we forgot about sustainability. It just disappeared. So what I'm half excited is that we're fighting to keep it in our agenda. But from a funding perspective, from collaboration internationally, it's very difficult. So we try to keep on, and AI might be the solutions, because we have two tracks. We have a track where we integrate AI and sustainability into our work, and one being the tool to the other. So it's kind of exciting, but it's also a fight to keep momentum on it.
It's a pragmatic one. I think what's exciting is fighting the good fight too. So thank you for doing that. I know our time is coming to close, so I want to leave you with maybe a little bit of a zinger to think about with this one. But I think with technology like this, it can feel really opaque to a lot of customers, and it can feel like magic sometimes to you on this side. So really, to me, when I think about adoption, the first word that comes to mind is trust. And so I'm really curious from your perspective, what's one thing the quantum industry can do to make customers feel more confident about adopting sooner?
So of course we, like I say, right at that use case application layer. So it's really important to work with those subject matter experts to understand what is the problem from their perspective, their point of view, what's the language that they use, and use that when you're communicating with them. Don't get sidetracked and lost down the qubits and Hamiltonians language, even though like it's so fascinating and really interesting and exciting, but then you can lose people. So maybe try to think of, okay, I'll spend max 10-15% of my time focusing on that, but then spinning that into, okay, but what does that mean for you? If it's a financial business, what does this mean for expected returns on your investments, if that's their KPI?
I think just to add on that too, I think with really going towards market pull, that's meeting them where they are and then traveling with them. So a really key point, just the language it starts with. Heling.
Yeah, I guess 2 points. The first is that tie back to what I just said. I think building trust in the cybersecurity world really meaning to trying to have your technology and solution more standardized, certified, and validated by, for example, government, international bodies who are actually doing those type of work, and by making your product or technology more sort of transparent, so that experts try to attack your security protocol, and they find that maybe there's something we need to improve, or maybe they're safe enough, and that itself actually brings the trust for the whole community to adopt. And the second point about is that I really feel like the government and the industry should take a more active role in trying to testing the solutions from the different technology vendors, and trying to create a more robust and dynamic marketplace. And that's also something will give a comfort for the customers. When they start to look for solutions, they know that there will be some trusted partners out there, has been tested, has already published the use cases and et cetera, for them to make some decisions.
I would lean back on my first thought. Quantum's not a monolith. Cybersecurity is now. Sensing is arguably now. for quantum computing, we need to recognize its potential is incredible, but let's be honest about where the tech is at and celebrate each little technological milestone just for what it is and bring our customers along for the journey, because we're going to get there. So bring them along.
And Multiverse already has some of the stuff today to bring them along the way. Over to you, Matt.
I guess we'll ping pong back to the cybersecurity side. I think one of the things for us on the trust is the consistency in messaging. So we hear a lot of questions of when is Quantum Day or Q Day, whatever you want to call it. When do I need to get started? What day should I be looking at? Do I really believe in this quantum stuff? If you look at a lot of the government messaging, especially over the last year, you've got the US, Canada, the UK, the EU, all kind of pointing towards needing to make changes and upgrades to their cybersecurity by 2030. That's been a consistent message across a lot of those governments and regulators that are out there. So start looking for some of that consistent messaging and get rid of some of the other noise of if and maybes and tracking some of these concepts that are really hard to understand and the interplay between them, and just go with what the regulators and those who are subject matter experts are consistently telling you. So I think on the cybersecurity side, we've seen a lot of that movement over the last 6 months, and it's been a lot of it's driven a lot of change in attitude at the very large organizations that we've been working with. So,
Bill, now.
Maybe 2 points. First is really to focus on pain points. If you try to make of everyone experts in quantum, there's no way. So really try to understand exactly what the problem or the potential for the organization. And the second one is it's an easy one. I love conference like this and share general information, but very important to have a small group workshop, because you need to hear from either your competitors or friendly competitors or people from the industry, someone who went through a research project or deployment of solution, and you need to hear the difficulty of doing so. Because if you just read the newspapers and the great stories, right, from the Numanas of this world, you'll say, oh, it's easy. But you need to hear how complicated it is, so you gain trust, and then you feel comfortable knowing exactly how complex it is. And then some will go for it.
Love that. Lots of pragmatic wisdom here, and I think it goes to the experience that we have in the Canadian ecosystem, which was one of the first countries to really get moving on quantum, and some of these companies have been at this for over a decade more as well. So thank you to our swords and our shields for sharing your wisdom today, and thank you for all of you for joining us. If you'd like to follow up with any of the panelists, please do.